North Branford Planning and Zoning regular meeting for October 3rd, 2024, 6:33. Please remove your hat and join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce the members of the commission seated here tonight. To my left is Bill Gaudenzi, our vice chair, and to his left is Ron Sienna, regular member, and to his left is Paul Marino. I'm sorry, Dan Marino. There we go. All right, I got it. To my right is Janice Crane, our recording secretary. At the administrative table is David Perkins, our town planner. And finally, my name is Robert Noack. I'm the chairman for the commission seated here tonight. Next order of business is to review the minutes for September 19th. Unfortunately, we have 2 of the 3 members present for that meeting minutes, so we're going to continue that or table it until next meeting. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing of possible action for 2 applications, 2024-19, 105 North Street, and application 2024-20 West Pond Road. I'm going to have Bill, our vice chair, read into the record the public notice.
So September 11th, 2024, submitted to Kelly Johnson, legal notice advertising for short publishing. Please insert the following legal ad in the sound on Thursday, September 19th, 2024, and Thursday, September 26th, 2024. Legal notice, North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 at the North Branford Town Hall, 909 Foxen Road, North Branford, Connecticut, to consider the following. A, application 2024-19, special use permit, request for the construction of 2 pavilions, 84 by 40 and 28 by 20. For company events and environmental education purposes at 105 North Street. Owner South Central Regional Water Authority. Applicant TPA Design Group. And B, application 2024-20. Special use permit, request for the installation of a 1.5, it's not milligrams, mg water storage tank. Must be million gallons.
There you go.
Water storage tank. Paved access driveway and site improvements at West Pond Road, map 27A, lot 6A, owner applicant South Central Regional Water Authority. At this hearing, all interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications will be received. Copies of the proposals are on file for public inspection in the Town Hall Planning Department. Robert Noack, Chairman.
Thank you, Bill. Before we begin the public hearing, I'd like to read a little statement on how we're going to run the public hearing. The purpose of the meeting is to hear all pertinent testimony of those in support of and opposition to the application before the commission. Procedure for the public hearing items tonight will be followed as such. Public hearing will be open, testimony will be heard in the following order. Applicant's going to explain their application. Staff and commissioner ask questions and or comments on the application. General public will have an opportunity to speak in support of and opposition to the application in the form of statements or questions. Applicant will have an opportunity to respond to public comment and provide closing statements as necessary. Staff and commission will again have an opportunity to comment when all sides have spoken. The public hearing will be closed. No further public discussion will be entertained. After the public hearing is closed, the commission will vote on the application. Some of the rules will be followed tonight. When addressing the commission, please speak into the microphone and state your name and address for the record. All comments should be addressed to the commission, not the applicant. Be relevant to the application and should not be of a personal nature. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Once your time has expired, please be respectful to the commission and other members of the public who want to speak. Please avoid repetitive comments. Once the public hearing has concluded, out of respect for this body, we kindly ask the audience to take any discussion about the results outside the chamber so we may continue with our business. That being said, is the applicant here to discuss application 2024-19? Come come up and state your name and explain your project to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Vitko. For those of you on the commission that may not know me, I'm the Environmental Planning Manager for the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority, located at 90 Sergeant Drive in New Haven, Connecticut. I just wanted to quickly introduce the project today before TPA Design Group comes up. The RWA is seeking to build two open-air pavilions for the purpose, as you mentioned earlier, for company events as well as water sector environmental education events as well. The pavilion location would be on a grass knoll that's overlooking Lake Gillard, which is utilized as a public drinking water supply reservoir. The goal of developing this project, the overall goals were to incorporate environmentally friendly building designs such as rain gardens, bioretention basins, as well as pollinator gardens to emphasize the environmental awareness while individuals are at the site. And the rain gardens would essentially take the precipitation from the roofs of both the structures and infiltrate that into the ground. The bioretention basins would take the remainder of the surface flow and retain, capture it, and infiltrate that into the ground. And then, of course, the pollinator gardens would be introduced to the rain gardens as well as adjacent to the pavilion structures, just to not only give an aesthetic look to the whole area, but to enhance the environmental awareness and also promote pollinator pathways in the area. I don't know if any of you are privy to this, but the Regional Water Authority has recently, over the past several years, constructed many pollinator gardens in New Haven, Hamden, and other areas, and it's been a great success. So we want to introduce those to this area as well. So the RWA has also been using this exact site for company events for several years now. It's worked out great for us, and we're hoping that with this proposal we can continue to do that. So I'm going to turn it over now to TPA Design Group to go over more of the specifics of the project. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Lauren Holy. I'm a landscape architect with TPA Design Group in New Haven. So on behalf of the Regional Water Authority, I am presenting the design for the two pavilions to be located south of Lake Gillard. Do you want me to turn this at all? I'm going to be pointing to...
Yeah, please. If you're gonna,
How's that?
if you're gonna open up.
All right. So here is the site. It is located within an existing gravel driveway connected to an existing asphalt roadway. The area to be developed is within the circle with evergreen. So just right now a grassy small hill with evergreen trees to the south. So here on the drainage plan, we have the main pavilion is 40 feet by 84 feet long with a concrete base, timber frame, and metal roofing. The second pavilion is 20 feet wide and 28 feet long, combination storage shed and outdoor barbecue area in the same architectural style as the larger pavilion. So gravel driveways will be created to access the pavilion for pedestrians as well as for vehicles to access the storage shed and the accessible parking and drop-off area. The accessible parking and drop-off area will be permeable asphalt. The stormwater best management practices include bioretention systems. So we have two large ones here, smaller ones at the base of the driveway. In addition to the porous asphalt, which will capture water levels consistent with the town of North Branford regulations, including 50% of the peak runoff of a 2-year event, and a zero net increase in the 10, 25, and 100-year storms. The bioretention basins will capture water runoff from the roof of the two buildings via gutters and pipes, as well as from the driveways via swales and sheet flow. The erosion control silt fence will contain the construction and capture sediment within the existing driveway circle, and an additional silt fence will go around the driveway to capture anything dislodged from the use of the gravel driveway during construction. A mixture of native plants and native seed mixes will be used to revegetate and enhance the site. Electricity for the building will be connected off the last utility pole down here off of Great Hill Road, distance about 800 feet. The electrical lines will be run underground from that last pole, and all lighting within the building will be LED. And then we have our architectural plan, which is prefabricated by Cedar Forest Product and brought on site to be assembled. The main pavilion is about 15 feet tall, and the pavilion shed is approximately 11 feet tall.
Is it, you said the company was Cedar something, is it Cedarwood?
Cedar Forest Products.
With a metal roof? Just curious.
Yeah, so I should know that. It's a type of wood that they're pressing together for durability.
Like a glue lamp?
Glue lamp, that's
Yeah, glue lamp.
the name.
Yeah.
So yes, that's,
So now that we got you off track,
Yeah.
are there 4 sides to the, looking through the paperwork I have, the walls, and the front picture shows a pavilion with open sides. So are we putting up a pole barn, or are we putting up a pavilion?
yes, so the large pavilion will resemble this pavilion here that's from the Camden Agricultural Station, I believe. So kind of modeled on that. So the large pavilion completely open. And then the smaller pavilion is designed to have storage. So that's kind of where seating and tables will be kept.
Very good.
So that's the intention when we wanted to architecturally match with the larger pavilion. So I call it a kind of a second pavilion, but really it's a storage shed in the design of a pavilion.
So it's company events and then environmental education for the public? So you'll open to the public occasionally?
So the larva itself is closed to the public, but we do offer recreational opportunities there through guided regional water authority events.
No, I understand that. I meant specific to this.
To the pavilion.
Yeah.
So again, if we have a special permit group that
Okay.
people can apply for special permit activities, but they need to apply to a certain threshold, being either education or science-related activities, and potentially through that program, it may be able to happen, but it's not open to the public per se. It would either have to be an RWA guided event with an RWA employee assisting, or a special permit. Yeah, AKA no weddings, no big events like that. You know,
No, I thought when you presented first, you were suggesting that the regional water authority is going to do events for the public as an educational outreach. And that was kind of what my question was.
right, so there'll be certain events that will be just for the internal staff members of the company. There'll be other events that are for, the water industry per se. There's organizations in the water industry that may want to use it at times. So, American Water Works Association, Connecticut Water Works Association, and through those associations, it's kind of like an educational sector for the water industry.
Right, got it.
Would it be open to the schools?
Again, through our education program, there's, we do offer education to North Branford right now through both the libraries during the summertime. We have other events that our education staff goes to the schools in North Branford, but occasionally if I would have to talk to them in advance, but if they had time during the summer and it dovetailed into one of those events, it's a possibility, but we haven't gotten that far as of yet.
No, mind you, I don't know what I'm talking about, but let's say, as an example, Sound School wants to bring a busload of kids to look at invasive species growing in the lake. Would that qualify, or?
Well, so in that particular case, they would not be able to just drive up there and utilize it.
Oh,
We would,
no,
of
I'm
course-
saying with permits and all that.
Oh, yeah, so if it was through a special permit or a guided event by the Regional Water Authority that was hosted by us, that would be applicable. But, obviously it's as close to the public, all the cases, yes.
have a question for you. This is an I zone, right? Is it I?
No,
Industrial zone?
it's an R40 or R80.
R80.
R80, right?
Is it considered an event space? Because we have industrial events, we don't have our
Well, it's,
residential event space. And we have,
it's under the B 3.1. Churches and places of worship, parish halls, schools, colleges, universities, educational, religious, philanthropic, and charitable institutions, membership clubs, lodges, community houses, nature preserves, wildlife sanctuaries, and recreational facilities are permitted in the R80 zone, subject to a special permit. And you also have a special permit because it's in the water district. So no structure can be built in the water district without a special permit.
no, you were part of we had a lot of discussion on this whole topic, right? And it was events like this, and the R we never passed, but we did it for wineries, breweries, and industrial uses. But it never, it got so far and it was withdrawn. And it's a very similar type of thing, that's why I'm asking.
And we created regulations to do that.
No, we didn't,
Okay,
yeah. We do not have a regulation now. It got withdrawn
right.
to do this kind of thing in residential zone.
Well, we just have to visit that line item. I mean, I think from what I just read that this probably complies with at least 2 or 3 of those.
Okay.
And again, it's a special permit, so you can put some controls on it in terms of buffers or hours of operation or noise levels or,
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is not a party pavilion.
No.
It's more educational or even to the point of you have your staff. And next year we want to do better, so you're educating them then that way. So it's educational at multiple planes.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the actual question again?
No, I was, answering Bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree, I just mean it was, you were part of it, it's
Yes.
it's very similar.
So
But we
I
had a
think
lot
the
of
only caveat that applies, that's different, is the educational component.
Right.
Because the other one was wineries and breweries, right? Or outdoor events that weren't necessarily educational, but more recreational entertainment more.
Yes. Yeah, as long as there's a distinction there, so, yeah.
I think there is, yeah.
Good.
It's not agritainment.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yep.
And I'll also add too that we did, we're regulated by the Department of Public Health.
Sure.
So at any time that we pose a project on where a company land, we have to submit an application to them. And they did come back to us saying that it was de minimis and didn't need a further application.
Sure.
So just for the record.
Yep.
Any further questions on the plan this morning?
I'm good.
Yeah, I do not. It's pretty straightforward.
Dave, any questions, comments?
Well, I have a comment from the interim fire chief. I think the proposed pavilions are an ideal use for this property. Well, I do see handicap parking spaces on the plans. I don't see any other parking areas. I think you went through that. Right. I'm wondering if the town agencies may be able to secure these pavilions for special events, e.g. if we wanted to have a fire department picnic. Maybe this could be broached with the applicant, so I'm broaching it.
Yeah, in that case, it would have to be, an educational or some sort of scientific event. So just having a informal picnic there for fun would not, apply for this.
Right, and I think that answers
Yeah,
your concerns.
Yep.
I believe the fire department has Knox box access to the North Street gate. If not, a Knox box padlock may be required. So I assume they have some access to get
Yeah,
up.
the fire departments have access just in case there's some incident that occurs on regional water authority property, let's say a wildfire or something like that. We want the quickest access possible to have for the town municipalities, fire department, police departments.
And the chief of police has a lot to say. Approved from my side, no other comments.
All right. Anything from the Regional Water Authority?
We did not ask them to come.
I just have one question. You have shown the plans, the drop off and the handicap accessible, but where were you planning on everyone else at the park? I missed that part.
Yeah, she'll show up, but we purposely wanted to keep this as low impact as possible, and through the other events that we've had, just for the regional water authority themselves, we've all parked on the grass areas. There's a lot of adjacent grass areas on Class 3 land, which is classified as not public water supply watershed land, so we can keep the cars on those grassy areas, and it seems to have worked out. So why pave it if there's no need to pave it?
We also have the area around the maintenance building.
I kind of figured as much. There's lots of grass area over there to park. Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? Okay.
At the moment.
Okay. With that being said, I'll open up to the public for those in support of the project would like to come up and make a comment. In support of? Anyone? In support of? Hearing none, I'll go to anybody opposed to the project. Anybody opposed to the pavilion project? Please state your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Joseph Vita. I live at 11 North Street. My primary concern is with the environmental quality of North Street. For instance, this past summer, every day, RWA diesel dump trucks traverse North Street all day long, sometimes up to 10 trips going and coming up to the lake. And I thought, well, if whatever they're doing up there is to preserve and protect the watershed or to improve the quality of the drinking water, then that's a fair trade. It was noxious having diesel smoke on North Street, where many people walk, where the daycare children walk. It was all day, every day this summer. I don't understand how the construction of these pavilions and a barbecue pit preserves and protects the watershed or improves the quality of the drinking water, which I believe to be RWA's primary mission, primary goal. I'd like to know, will North Street be the main access to more construction equipment going back and forth in the construction of this pavilions? And also, once the pavilions are constructed, how often will they be used? And will North Street be the primary access point? I did notice that they did some substantial work to the culvert at the gate, beefing it up. So now the sign says it can support up to 72,000 pounds of weight. I just thought that was very interesting. They did a nice job, but I'm concerned that North Street is being set up for a main access to an entertainment pavilion that does not do anything for the water quality. And now I just heard there's going to be electricity and lighting in addition to barbecue areas. And when they do have events, will North Street, again, be the main access to these events, to and from these events? I'm not sure that it is in the residents' best interest of North Street to have these pavilions constructed for the purpose that is being given here by the RWA. I don't see any benefit in terms of drinking water and the quality of the drinking water. So those are some of the questions I have. And what restrictions will there be on the amount of traffic, which is, again, my primary concern as a resident of North Street.
Very good, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I got a quick question. Did you ever find out what the trucks were doing up there?
Yeah.
We'll have the
Hold
application.
hold on.
Back, yeah.
Wait, after. Continue. Anyone else in opposition to the pavilion? Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Ray Hansen, I live on 75 Great Hill Road, the last house on Great Hill. I share many of the concerns that the gentleman on North Street expressed. I've lived in the house there for 25 years now. For many years, the RWA did not do anything to improve the private road that goes past my house. They have recently, within the last, I believe, 3 to 5 years, probably 3 years, repaved the road, which has improved things substantially. Now, the dump trucks have also gone by our house. I believe I heard that it's material that they've collected from filters that the water goes through, and they dump this stuff out on the RWA property. I don't know if this is true or not. Now, I suspect, and I didn't hear an answer to the gentleman's question.
Mr. Hanson, you can address us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And it's Dr. Hanson.
I'm sorry. Okay, Dr. Hanson.
I would like to know what the primary access will be for this, and will this change the tax base for North Branford? This is a substantial investment. We didn't hear how much this is going to cost, but I'd like to know that if this goes forward, that the town, seeing no other benefit from this, sees a tax benefit from it. I think that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanson.
Thank you.
Anyone else in opposition to the project would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Paul Vanamaker. I live on North Street. I would like to know the frequency of the events that the Regional Water Authority is talking about. Will it be one a month? Will it be one a week? Will it be every Tuesday? I've also just noticed that there's a lighting plan. Does this mean that the Water Authority will be having people up there at night? I'm concerned with the quality of life on North Street. Lake Gallard is a great resource, and I don't think that the Water Authority is using, in this particular case, the resource for drinking water. I think they're using this resource for a pavilion, which is well and good, but it doesn't, I don't think I want to pay for that. I also would like to ask a question to the council, which you may not be able to answer. Is there a cost for this pavilion? I'm not supposed to turn around.
You address us. You
anyone
can
know?
address us.
Does anyone know what this?
Paul, you can,
We'll,
Paul, you can address us. Thank you. They'll have an
Do you
opportunity.
know what it's going to cost? Do you know who's going to pay for it? I'm done.
Can I have what number
Thank
north?
you.
What number north?
52 North Street?
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to?
Good evening. My name's
Gunnar Kallstrom. I live at 67 North Street. Paul and Joe are my neighbors, have been for a number of years. I've been here for going on probably 15 or 16 years. I think main concerns have been asked with my neighbors here. I just want to point out that I think the educational aspect of the pavilion is kind of an open door for water company private functions. I understand that, you know, the firehouse or the fire captain was interested in renting or whatever, and you thought that if it was educational purposes, that's fine. So are they gonna have a muster thing up there because it's educational? I mean, I don't see the fire company being environmental and looking at weeds and frogs and stuff like that. As far as any functions that the water company has, I think they're more apt to be able to lease an inn or something like that for any, you know, retirement parties or whatever. It sounds like it's an opening for the water company to run functions up there at their discretion. And I think the education department is just something to slide under the door to get these permits approved. That's all. Thank you.
Can I have your name again, sir?
Gunnar, Gunnar.
Is that your last name?
First name.
Okay, last name?
Kallstrom.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to the project? One more time, opposition to? Okay, with that being said, I'll turn it back over to the applicant to rebut some of the comments, if you like. That'd be great.
Sure.
Would you come up to the?
Oh, yes,
Thank you.
In terms of access to the site, the main access point location for construction and the you know, any events that we would hold there would be Great Hill Road. It's worked in the past for the events that we've had, if people have noticed the events going on or not. You know, in terms of frequency, it would be fairly infrequent that we do meet at this area. Currently, we have 1 to 2 you know, company events per year. And, you know, in terms of the water industry related Connecticut section of the American Water Works Association and Connecticut Water Works Association, probably just a handful per year. We typically meet quite a bit online now. This would just be for the, we'll say the more pleasurable time of year, you know, from spring to fall, a couple one-offs during the year. So fairly infrequent access to it. It's not like it would be, you know, happening on a very regular basis. In terms of the lighting, you know, all structure.
Can you?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry to break your train
Yeah, no
of
worries.
thought, but because it ties into it, there's been questions, and I actually have a question of what's going on with the dump trucks now?
You know, that's nothing to do
like
with
North Street and Great Hill Road. There's dump trucks.
Right. I'm not. I don't know exactly what they're doing. It's nothing to do with this pavilion project. You know, as far as we haven't broken ground or anything like that. So we do utilize storage up there for certain materials on Class 3 land, which is approved. But I don't have any direct answers to the current traffic going on. But in terms of the pavilion project, there's nothing to do with that right now.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries. Oh, yeah, do you have another question?
Access to the pavilion would be through North Street to build it?
No, Great Hill Road.
Great Hill Road?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then in terms of the lighting that was brought up, you know, the pavilion structure needs to have lighting just in case there's a low light day that you plan to be there, and, you know, electrification for that. However, you know, the intent is not to have, you know, nighttime events per se. Currently for the company events that we've had there, we've gone there, you know, on a Friday night, and we typically get there around 4 o'clock or so, and we have some food, and we collaborate as, you know, as the Regional Water Authority. And then at night, either people leave or we have a real estate manager who is very into birding, so he actually leads an owl walk. So it's just a walking owl walk where we have projections of owls where they talk back to us, and then pretty much everyone leaves after that. So the intent is not at all to have any sort of like a nighttime loud music or anything like that. It's pretty much a more daytime hour type of event schedule there.
Where do you have your current meetings? These outdoor events, are they held somewhere else or somewhere?
No, the exact location, yeah.
Same, okay.
Yep, exact location and the exact proposed parking.
And what kind of shelter is there now? Any
No,
event-
it's just just an open, actually, the picture on the bottom there, it's just a grass field. You know, it's surrounded by a gravel road. So the gravel road is existing, and the grass, I won't even call it a hill, like the grass middle area is existing as well.
So just tables and chairs, maybe tents?
Yeah, so what we'll have to do is, like, you know, erect a tent, bring in chairs and tables, and currently on site, it may be deteriorated by now, but there's one picnic table, that's it.
What was your anticipated occupancy for the pavilion, 40 by 84?
I believe, was it in the application?
I think we were estimating around 220, 300.
Yeah, that would be well, yeah, that's the capacity.
And we use that to estimate the accessible parking.
I'm sorry, were there any other questions that I may have not addressed?
Yeah, I have one. I'm trying to be diplomatic, and I'm old enough to not be diplomatic. So, I'll put it out there. The water company would not pay taxes on this pavilion, is that correct?
Yeah, currently we pay, just for the landownings in North Branford, we pay $1.5 million a year for pilot. So we would continue paying the pilot, but this, I believe, would be tax exempt.
So my question is, what's in this for me? As a taxpayer?
Right.
Of North Branford, you know, I'll step away from the, being on the panel. If I were sitting out there, you know, there's more maintenance on the various streets that feed it that we have to pay for. We're not getting any feedback from, you know, the pavilion. So, I mean, I realize you do your own policing, but it still requires North Branford Police to, you know, it's a very good party place.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yes.
So, again, what's the benefit for
So-
the people of North Branford?
So particularly, if I could just read off some of the items that we're currently doing for North Branford, which, you know, as a public company, we try to get out into the public as much as possible and do these things. Yes. Correct. So let me get back to that for a second. But if I may, you know, with what we do for North Branford, you know, we're working with the Land Trust currently to sell two parcels, 19 acres and 17 acres respectively, for, you know, public access to those. We hold many special recreation events at Lake Gillard, including North Branford Walk for the fundraiser. We have programs on bats, bird walks, owl walks, kids archery, butterfly walks, botany walks, biocontrol methods for swallower, and maple sugaring demonstrations, all that we just do for the public. We have other recreation events in North Branford, including hikes and Trails Day hikes, and we've allowed North Branford Land Trust to extend hiking trails from the Harrison Preserve onto Lake Gillard property. And in terms of education, we've also done summer programs at over 25 years at the Edward Smith and the Atwater Libraries. We've done invasive species classroom programs at Tucket Valley School this year, and problems with pollution loan box used at the Tucket Valley School. And we've also participated in a few of the annual North Branford High School Eco Fairs. In addition, this is private property, so, you know, this proposal is just, you know, even though we're a public company, it's still a private company, and this is proposed on private lands.
So, maybe the converse of Ron's question, only because it came up when I took a note, is who's paying for this?
The Regional Water Authority.
Yeah, it comes,
Through
is
the
it just
capital program, yeah.
Gets maybe to the ratepayers at some point. But- Okay. I was asked, so I'm just asking the questions. Okay.
Any other questions I can address?
I think I'm good.
I don't have any questions.
Dave, do you have any other comments, questions, concerns on your end?
Yeah.
Commissioners? Are you good?
No questions.
Questions, no.
Comments for us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
So, hearing none, then, we'll ask one more time. Anybody else want to speak against the project before I close the public hearing?
I have a question. My name is Bonnie Szymanski, 50 West Pond Road, North Branford. I'm also a member of the Land Trust, and when we were given that loop by RWA, we had to answer a lot of questions in terms of wildlife. So in terms of constructing this pavilion, because I think I know exactly what you're talking about, in Lockwood Farms, that pavilion is huge. It's bigger than this room. So my question is, do you have a plan for the deer and the turkeys that are up there? What are you considering about that? That's it.
Thanks, Bonnie. Anyone else? Anyone else speak against it? Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, would you like, go ahead.
I just have a follow-up. I'm not too familiar with the.
Just state your name again for the record.
Gunnar
just so-
Kallstrom, 67 North Street, North Branford. You're considering a special permit because of zoning 3 or something. Now, this special permit is going to be approved by this panel, right?
That's correct.
If it goes through. And I noticed you had some different ideas of what the Zone 3 was because of breweries and stuff like that. What makes this pavilion or pole barn any different functionally wise other than education? And so as far as the Zone 3, they need a special permit through the town to construct this. And this is being paid for by this company, not taxpayers. Who's doing the work? This company? Are they doing the construction of it? And the pole barns are usually frost protected. Are they going to be pylons? I haven't looked at any of the drawings, so, or is everything frost protected? Is it walls, sauna tubes? That's a big structure to be holding a lot of weight for a view. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry to bother you one more time. Long Animaker, 52 North Street. I'd like to ask again, what is the project going to cost? I don't think we've heard the answer to that question.
Anyone else in opposition to?
One follow-up, if I may. It's just a point of, in terms of, they mentioned the fact that it's private property, and but North Street isn't. North Street is public access, public right-of-way. At the end of the street, there is fencing and a gate which locks to prevent trespassing and people going up there and causing damage to the water supply. They're proposing to build this pavilion, which is obviously going to be a quite expensive project, but large sections of that fence have been missing for many years, allowing people to walk through onto water company property, not to mention dirt bikers and ATVers. Maybe some of the money can be diverted to fixing the fencing at the end of North Street. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to add anything new to the conversation in the opposition to the project?
Arnie Hanson, 75 Great Hill Road. Yeah, thank you for allowing the follow-ups. Maybe the commission could inform the public as to a little bit of the history of the organization. I understand that the dam that was built up there was done under the Works Progress Administration, which I believe was taxpayer funded. I don't really understand. It used to be the New Haven Water Company, and now it's the Regional Water Authority, which I understood was a consortium of the towns, but perhaps I'm wrong on that. I gather I am, given that it's emphasized this is private property. And again, this is a free country. They should be allowed to do what they want with their private property. I think that needs stating, but also there is some history there. Perhaps that there was most of the construction of that property came from federal tax dollars. I don't know that to be the case, but it's hard to believe that Works Progress Administration was privately funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to reply? Closing statement, rebuttal?
Sure. In terms of the first question on wildlife, the Lake Gillard area is a very vast, wilderness area that's home to many, many different animals, and I don't think that this, we try to keep the footprint of this small, and I don't believe it'll, impact any of the wildlife in the area. This site right here is just a grassy area. There's no forest land to it. And there's a ton of other grassy area, an example where we proposed the parking area. So in terms of wildlife, there's a massive amount of land over here that will support that wildlife. The cost of this project right now is under review, and I don't believe that's relevant for this discussion in terms of the application today. And in terms of the access, that is access, I should say, to the Lake Gillard property. That's something that we're constantly trying to improve. There's a lot of, we have over 27,000 acres of land. As you can imagine, we can't have a fence on every single square, linear foot of that land. It's very costly. It's very difficult to maintain those areas. But in certain areas, we do try to make the access as difficult as possible for potential trespassers. We have recently also received more police officers to our police force who will be patrolling the area, which has dwindled throughout the years, but we're kind of restoring that over the last year or so, and we're planning on building numbers back up, and they'll be there to patrol those lands as well. So with that, if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any other questions?
There was a question asked twice about the cost.
Said it was under review.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I must.
It's an unanswered question.
Yeah, I mentioned
the cost.
Yes, no, it's under review, and in terms of this proposed application, we're seeing if this passes first, and with the cost right now is irrelevant.
Do you have a ballpark budget?
We have a ballpark budget.
Which is?
Do typical applicants release
I'm
the
just curious, that's all.
budget? Yeah, we do have a ballpark budget.
You're correct in your statement. It's not part of the application.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fair.
Yep.
Dave, you have any other questions, comments?
No.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Commissioners, we have any other questions or comments?
I mean, for our discussion, but not.
Just for the public hearing, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Public hearing is still open. Right, that's what I mean, so I don't think I have it for the public hearing.
Okay.
Is that just out of trouble hearing?
We don't have any other questions, so with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Need a motion first.
I make a motion to close public hearing on application 2024-19.
We have a motion, we have a second? We have a motion to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, public hearing is closed.
Did you get a second?
Paul?
Yep. Okay, so with that being said, questions, comments about the application?
I have a comment or consideration.
Okay,
And because it's in our, I know this is not an event space, but it's in other towns' event space, and it's in our industrial one, and it may allay some of the concerns, and it's to have them submit a plan of activities to you each year, and they need to follow it. We already have existing language. They can deviate a certain percentage because they may not know at the beginning of the year.
they probably do.
They probably do. So,
You're playing this.
so,
They should make an announcement, they should announce it somewhat to at least to the people in the area, at least a month in advance of what they have coming up. If they have an event coming up, they should have to let the people know, put in the advisor.
so.
You may want to,
That's a little, that's another thing, so let's just continue, hold up. Because if they submitted that to the town, it would be public record.
correct.
People would have access to that. So anyone could say, when are these events, and learn. But that would give us some kind of control over some of the concerns that they're not.
Correct. And you
having-
may,
Having 70, I know they're not looking to have 70 events.
well, you may want to limit,
Exaggerating.
you may want to
Or
limit the number of
Yeah.
events. You may
Yeah.
want to limit the days the events can occur. You
Yeah,
may want to
those-
limit
those
the
kinds
hours.
of things as conditions of approval.
Definitely, there should be in the ordinance, the noise, whatever our times are in town for the noise ordinance, if it's 10 o'clock. So like by 10 o'clock, they gotta be out. You don't want them driving down the street at
Yeah.
11, 12 o'clock,
Exactly.
these guys are sleeping.
Yeah, 200,
They're out of their mind, they got 200-300 people.
120 cars leaving all at once after the event's over.
You can't have 200 cars down the street at night anyway.
I mean, that's, I think, for me, reasonable, because it's a way at least of controlling it and understanding what they are, and then you have visibility to it,
Well, I think the number of events, the way it was presented, was not going to be a whole lot. So I think you're better off trying to cap it.
Yeah.
And if they want to come back and change the special permit, then they have a chance to do that. But you could limit it to, 12 events a year.
Or hold the larger events on the weekends, weekdays, in the daytime, people in the nighttime. And the lights also, so like.
I would like to, I like the idea of limits, but I also like the idea of a plan, only because it gives visibility, because it's publicly available.
Say that again?
I said I like the idea of limits, because I think they're not looking for a ton, so I don't think they'd have a problem with it. It'd be a reasonable number. But I like the idea of, I personally, only because it's in our existing regulation, is that in other towns, for events, I know this is somewhat different, but other towns, when we looked at this, have a schedule of the events as best they can project.
Right.
At the beginning of the year, I think there's a time, whatever, by March 30th, you have to submit your plan. So they put the 10 that they know of, and there's like a percentage, it's in the regulation, the percentage of, if they don't know, they can have a
Right.
couple more events, but it has to be within a percentage of the total allowed, That way, if, people on North Street and Great Hill Road can access that at the beginning of the year and understand when there may be more traffic on the road. Prepared, yeah.
Also,
It's analogous to a lot of the regulation around this. That's why I think it makes sense, and for me.
So would you like to limit the number of activities? Would you like to limit the size of the gatherings, so there are no more than
I think 200, 300.
200 people, 100 people?
Yep.
And when everybody's leaving, on a small residential street, I mean, I'm off the street, from what I understand.
They said that capacity is 220 to 300, but they would never, I don't know if they said never, but they said they're not looking to get near those maximum levels, so.
If it's an educational thing and they're looking at frogs and birds, other people come out with it, that's a different.
I mean, mostly during the day, right?
Yeah, I would assume.
For the most part.
Well, it's company events, and it will be for their industry-sponsored educational things, so they'll have other industry people coming, so it's those kinds of things too, not just the educational.
I would also say that the access to, you're saying the access to the gates doesn't seem like, it sounds like it's a secure place, but maybe they would have to address that prior to.
It's not part of the application.
Not right.
No. That's their concern to have that addressed.
Personally, for me, I think that's reasonable, capping it and then a schedule of events, because their access is on our public roads, as I think you mentioned, and it's people trying to live, so I think that for me makes sense.
You reword it the way you want it. I'm not sure, so if that captures what you're looking for.
Like December ones.
So do you want me to work on
Oh, yeah.
conditions
Yeah, maybe that's
for the next meeting, and I can have some blank spots, and we can discuss them and just
Yeah,
fill in, like,
that would.
number of participants, number of activities, and
Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah,
That works.
yeah, that would be great, actually.
Okay, with that being said, we're going to continue this public hearing to the next meeting.
well, no,
No?
you closed the public hearing.
Yeah.
No.
You're right.
Continue this application till the next meeting,
Correct.
right? Okay, sorry about that. All right, so that thus concludes application 2024-19. Moving on to application 2024-20 regarding the water tower.
Good evening. My name is Orville Kelly. I'm representing the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority that is located at 90 Sergeant Drive. Thanks for the opportunity of presenting this project before you this evening. With me are some of my associates, Cody Savoy, project engineer, also most recently our Director of Engineering, Mr. Victor Benny. Along in the audience we also have James Hill, the General Manager and Head of Operation at the Regional Water Authority. Mr. Andrew White from Taiwan, who will be going through the actual presentation this evening. I'm just here to give an overview of the project itself. All right, so to discuss the need and the importance of this project, the existing North Branford tank is a 3.3 million gallons welded steel tank constructed back in 1972. The tank is critical to the RWA distribution system and to our customers as it provides fire protection and maintains adequate pressure and supply to our service area. In 2016, when the tank was last painted, there was a significant risk to the system with the tank offline for an extended period of time. The tank is presently in need of repairs and maintenance of some of its roofing members, thus requiring the tank to be taken out of service again. The long-term replacement of this tank with two smaller concrete tanks will provide redundancy and allow for isolation of each tank for future maintenance without putting our customers and our system at risk. The construction of this new 1.5 million gallon concrete tank to the service area is an important step for us in creating resiliency and mitigating operational concerns and challenges during inspections, normal maintenance, and or improvements. Our forefather had the insight to purchase a large enough piece of land, which is shown up there, and with the intent of a second tank that was originally proposed on this piece of property. Therefore, we are here this evening seeking the special permit from Planning and Zoning to construct this new 1.5 million gallon tank so we can quickly evaluate the condition of the existing tank while providing some level of water supply and protection to our customers and our residents. The project is expected to go through all the local and state permitting, along with our internal RPB representative policy board's approval. We have already obtained the right of use approval from the Inland Wetlands Committee, and our intent is to begin construction in the spring of 2026 with an expected completion date sometime in 2028. Mr. Andrew White from Time Bond will be going through the application in detail, addressing the design criteria where the total storage will ultimately remain the same as it is on site. The new tank elevation will match the existing tank elevation. The stormwater runoff will be improved, and this project will exceed all zoning and stormwater standards. Mr. White.
Can I ask a question? What is the tank for? I know storage, but pressurization?
Yes, so
I wasn't aware of that.
It is a water storage tank that is, we send the water there to store to maintain pressure in the system and also to provide fire protection. To residents, businesses, schools, all parties in that service area.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the commission. Sorry, I'm a little taller. Andrew White, professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut with Tie and Bond. I'm the civil engineer of record for the project. I'm going to walk you through the plans. I don't know how long.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that microphone's working.
Microphones aren't working.
I'll try to speak loud.
Is it turned? It might be on.
Here you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Andrew White, professional civil engineer with Tie and Bond, civil engineer of record for the project. I'm going to go through, as Orville described, the project itself. First, I'll draw your attention to the aerial plan on the left. This is showing the existing tank as well as the proposed site improvements holistically, as well as the abutting neighbors. West Pond Road. West Pond Road is to the south. You can see at the bottom edge of the drawings. The rest of the drawings, so right now, north is pointed up. I'm going to rotate it. The rest of the drawings, north will be to the right, so this will give you the orientation as we're looking at the rest of the plans. As Mr. Kelly had described earlier, the original plan submitted in 1972 had the existing 3.3 million gallon tank, as well as the future tank that we're coming in now for application. Originally was envisioned as the same size. That is not the case in this application. As you heard previously, it is now a 1.5 million gallon tank, so smaller diameter. The existing one, I believe, is around 110 feet in diameter. This one's approximately 83. Also, the magic exhaust for these tanks is the elevation. So we're moving this tank up the hill, so it's not the same height tank as it goes up the hill, it's the same elevation. So the tank is shorter, but maintains the same elevation between the two tanks. So, sorry, here that is a part here. Let me move closer to the mic. So this plan shows the site plan itself. The orange circle up here is the new tank. The existing tank is south of the new tank. It is served by existing access road off of West Pond Road. The proposal is to extend a loop road to maintain circular traffic. Not that there's much traffic, but in order to provide efficiency in the operation of the site itself. So vehicles that would come to the site can pull up, service both tanks, and move off of the site in a more efficient manner. In here, the green limit you see is the limit of clearing for trees. There will be the new access drive, riprap stone as part of the drainage system that I'll explain shortly, and a new fence, new perimeter fence that ties to the existing fence. Currently, the existing fence is solely around the existing tank. This will tie to the tank and bring it around the new tank and provide a single access gate so the entire site still remains protected from public access. In front of you here is the grading and stormwater management plan. There is, and we did receive this evening, some additional comments from third-party engineers, so I'm going to incorporate responses to those comments as I proceed. There is, to install this tank, there's cut that will be established, removal of soils to establish the tank elevation, and then regrade on the site. We've gone through a few iterations for the grading. Originally, we had much more export of material coming off the site. One of the questions that was asked was about how much material is being exported. Originally, we were closer to 3,000 to 4,000 yards being exported. We are down to 990 yards, which is approximately 52 to 62 truckloads of material to be exported off of the site. The stormwater management features itself, we have a series of catch basins, yard drains, and swales that all proceed from the site itself and go down the drive to the south where there is a stormwater infiltration system, subgrade infiltration system. So the water is being collected and being infiltrated into the groundwater. Now these, we did do percolation tests and deep hole tests that were done. We are meeting the town's criteria as well as the new 2024 state guidelines for stormwater. So we have around a 60% reduction in our 2-year flows, all the way up to, we pretty much maintained the 60 to 62% reduction in all of the design flows for the offsite portions. The portion that comes in here is 60%, varying down to around 6% as the flows are being reduced from existing. So the new manuals require 50% reduction in the 2-year storm. That's one of the newest criteria. I believe North Branford had that previous to the state adopting it. So we're meeting all of those criteria. Also, we are reducing flow offsite to the east and the west by directing that water south into this system. So not only are we reducing the flow that previously went south, we are reducing flows that are going east and west because we're gathering more and directing it south, and then controlling it as it goes south. There was a comment from the engineer about the infiltration tests that were performed. They were asking, the system is 10 feet deep. They were asking at what elevation we were doing our infiltration tests. The infiltration tests were done 24 to 36 inches deep. What we had done prior to doing our tests was we had done deep test holes going down the 10 feet or beyond the 10 feet to establish the soil profile. Once we got past the 18 to 20 inches of topsoil, it was a homogeneous native layer of sandy loam. So for safety of our personnel out there, we did not do infiltration tests in a hole that's 10 feet deep. We did them higher, but in the same strata of soil that would be experienced for that entire system.
Is it oversized so it has excess? You said 2-year storms, but I know we've heard other, I mean, these storms are having the past several years are unprecedented, and this whole 100-year floodplain is out the door, you know.
Yeah.
So you say 2-year, I mean, does it have much more capacity to?
It does. So the biggest reduction is the 2-year storm because that is the most frequent storm.
Okay.
But we analyzed all the way up to the 100-year storm. We have reductions all the way up to the 100-year storm in this system without a bypass. So this is all being gathered, collected into the system, and then discharged at less peak flow than the existing. So,
but considering 100-year or 200-year?
We did not consider beyond the 200-year.
200-year.
Or sorry, beyond the 100-year.
Yeah, 100, okay.
So 100-year was the maximum of the review, which is normal engineering practice. So
yeah, for now.
For now.
So it gets adjusted.
Absolutely. This is the utility plan you see here. We do have new electric and feeders coming in from the site drive that will feed the new tank. There are 4 light poles that are now provided. These will be operated by a switch at the gate. These are not they're not on timers. This would be in case of an emergency. So if Regional Water Authority had to go out there at night for an emergency, they could have light. But that is the sole purpose for the lighting. There's new water utilities associated with connecting this tank into the system that you see in blue, but generally very light for utility requirements for the project.
Mr. White, there's no lighting there now? Minimal?
I do not believe there's any lighting there now. Okay. So that is more of a safety improvement for the Regional Water Authority workers. We have a robust soil erosion control plan for this. This is a hillside, as the hill starts just to the north and grades to the south. In addition to we have erosion control blankets that are all in the orange. We have here in the green, this is a temporary sediment control or a temporary sediment trap sized for 2 acres of disturbance. So this will gather all the water, let sediments drop out, and then you have clean water that's being discharged after that. We have water bars for all the construction roads, as well as stone line swales with check dams. So we are managing all of the soil erosion on site. We meet the 2024 state guidelines. And then for restoration itself, this area shown in green is all of the areas that are being disturbed. They will be seeded with a natural wildlife mixture. The area within the 2 tanks will be maintained by Regional Water Authority, likely in a biannual to mowing. So it's not a mowed lawn condition, but just maintained so that they don't have trees growing up in the area. They will also be maintaining the perimeter of the fence so it's not overgrown, but the idea is beyond the fence line, that area will reseed and regrow itself with the assistance of the seed mix. So with that, that's a presentation of the site. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you have.
More of a curiosity, is it concrete? Is it just concrete and the water's in the concrete, or is it
The tank itself
tank, yeah?
is a concrete walled tank.
Does it have to be coated or anything? No, just
I believe it is painted for
Painted.
on the outside, but
outside, but not inside, yeah. So, because it's just for fire protection, it's not. This is more just curiosity, to be honest with you.
So curiosity, I did, well, Orville Kelly, I did mention that it does do fire protection, but it is drinking water.
Drinking too, okay.
Yes.
Is the tank visible for any neighbors? You're up a higher elevation, can any of the neighbors see it?
So I believe
I have no idea.
presently, no, I'm not, the tank is visible to neighbors, the existing tank that's there. The new tank that will be there, it will be visible to neighbors, yes, but we take it into consideration whether it be planters or something like that. There's a buffer, presently a natural buffer for over 100 feet or just about 100 feet. So whatever else could be done, whether it be screening or something like that, we're amenable to that.
Okay. What was your proposal for ENS controls along the steep slope to maintain the soil on the property?
So those
Silt
are
fence, hay bales?
so erosion control blankets. We have silt fence and straw wattle barrier at the toe of the slope, so that would be tied together. So you'd have the silt fence itself dug into the ground with the straw wattles with 5 feet of overlap between each straw wattle, and those come in longer lengths.
What's the duration of the project?
12 to 18 months.
Okay. Okay. Dave, you have any questions?
Can you talk a little bit about the cuts that you're doing where the new water tanks go and the fills that you're doing and what sort of volumes those are?
Absolutely. So the area just east of the tank, this was a later addition as we were evaluating how much cut and fill was coming off of the site. So the cuts required for the site are around 7,000 cubic yards. We had previously had a plan that was developed. It was around 4,000 cubic yards of fill. We had incorporated a fill area east of the tank to absorb more of that fill to limit the excess fill going off-site. So now we are at 7,000 cubic yards of cut, 6,010 cubic yards of fill with the 990 cubic yards export off of the site. So it was very intentional. I know there was a comment about why that area was there. That area is there to lose additional material, so it's not going out into the through North Branford on the roads to another facility.
And have you thought about terracing it as opposed to just doing a slope?
The slope is a 3-to-1 slope, so we do not consider terracing it as typically less than 3-to-1. You would terrace closer to 2.5-to-1. Terracing would also limit the amount of volume we would have as we would bench that, but certainly is an option we could look into.
What's the distance from the top of the new hill to the toe?
The distance or the height?
The distance and the height.
So it's around 80 feet is the distance. The height itself, it's around top to the bottom of the toe is around 50 feet.
Right.
Around 25 feet, I doubled it.
I'm glad you put it on that side rather than on the side where the wetlands are. That's a plus. I'm still be concerned without any sort of terracing that some of that soil is going to erode before the plant structures will grab it. Are you going to compact it? Or?
Yes, this would be compacted in place to 95 percentile. We did leave around 10 to 15 feet between this toe slope and the driveway itself, so we have room for erosion control as well as if any of the slope is starting to erode, that they can maintain that and reestablish.
Right. Before it washes out the road.
Yes.
Is there a need for 2 driveways? You're going to maintain 2 driveways?
So the driveway out to West Pond remains a singular driveway.
Yeah.
The need or the desire to have this loop is really for the efficiency of transportation, as it's not very often, but trucks do come in if there's any chemical dousing or any maintenance needs, that they can get trucks in and pull around. Currently, there's limited space up here where trucks will come in, they'll pull off the road itself, do a few turns to then try to back, so that they're proceeding out versus trying to back down. This is too much of a hill to try to back any equipment out.
Right. Okay.
Also, just for the record, the regional does, in maintenance of tanks, we do have utility trucks, which is a little bigger than your normal SUV. And so part of design, safety and design for the regional is when you're limited backing out and the 3-point turn and just going around, that's a safety and design protocol, typical when you have slope everything. And so it's really just one driveway with a loop is what it is, and that would be still maintained by the regional.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is the facade on the tank going to match the other tank?
Could you repeat that question?
Is the facade on the new tank similar to the outside of the old tank?
No, the facade on the existing tank is a steel. It's a welded steel tank.
Okay.
The facade on the new tank is going to be concrete. We do have several concrete tanks in our system. That's kind of the way we've been going recently because it requires less maintenance and less O&M dollars.
The tank is 1972. There's no plans to replace that?
Yes, and so part of my early statement was that replacing the existing tank with 2 smaller tanks is going to give us a redundancy so that if we have to take that one tank offline, we still provide supply, water pressure, everything else while we maintain that one tank. There is known issues in terms of up in the roof that we need to get into this tank exactly to evaluate, and based on that evaluation, it requires, that will determine also thereafter that tank is going offline.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's the increase in pressure you
Excuse
can
me?
achieve? What's the increase in pressure you can achieve by having a higher tank?
The pressure doesn't change, and that was something that Mr. White was saying, that this tank is at this elevation or this height, and we're taking it and we're moving it here, it's still the same height. So you're not changing the elevation, so it still remains the same pressure customers, residents are seeing today will be the same pressure they see when this new tank is in service.
I thought, that I may be wrong, the new tanks are taller than
No.
They're shorter.
Shorter,
They're higher
smaller.
in the air, so they're net zero.
So the ground is higher.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I don't have any at this point.
Okay. Dave, you good?
Yeah, we'll just have to figure out where that 900 cubic yards of dirt's gonna go when you get a contractor and find out if it's stay in town or leave in town or.
We can certainly coordinate that.
I do have a question. So what color do you typically paint these? Since it's visible by the neighbors apparently. Is there a standard?
We'll try our best to make sure it's not as visible. We tend to go with similar color as to the existing tank that's there. It's not brownish tan, it's somewhat of a lighter color. As I said, we do have other tank projects. Sometimes the colors kind of mixed in with the concrete. So the most you'll be doing is just a touch-up paint on that once that is finished. So it's It's a light tannish color.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Like an earth tone?
Yeah, a light earth, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
No, I don't have any at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If I may?
Sure.
Yeah, please.
So this is a concrete tank that we have presently over now. Woodbridge, right? That's typically the color. that you see there.
Gotcha.
I'm colorblind, so.
Yeah, it's
I'll trust you to see what it is. I'm not sure what I
I
saw.
was thinking like the tank when you're driving into Boston,
Weston.
the white tank with the purple waves in it.
All right.
All right, with that being said, I'd like to open up the public hearing to those in support of the tank project. Anyone in support of the tank project? In support of the tank project?
Yes.
Okay.
No, actually, I'm neither in support of it or against it, but since I want to take the
Can I
high
interrupt you
road.
for a second, sir? Could you your name and address,
Yes,
please? Thank
Bob
you.
Fischbach, 50 West Pond Road. Been there since 1950. Like I said, I'm not in favor of it, I'm not against it, but I thought I would speak at the in favor portion of the meeting just to take the high road. First, the question, how is this other tank going to come down? And I'll just leave that out there for you people. I've been looking at this eyesore since 1972, and given the importance of water and the needs of the community, I think it's worth looking at it. However, I believe that Regional Water Authority ought to do something for us in the immediate area. All of us have wells. We get no benefit from city water. And one thing, and I have a good relationship with all the drivers who come through the area. I've never had a problem with the Regional Water Authority. But I'd like them to be a little bit better of a neighbor and put a hydrant as part of this project. If we have a fire, the fire department has to go down to Clear Lake to pump water up to 50 West Pond Road. That's over a quarter of a mile. The driveway for Regional Water Authority is about 100 yards from my home. If they put a pipe from their new tank down their driveway and put a hydrant there, our home insurance policies would probably go down. I know every time I go shopping for homeowners insurance, they ask me, how far away are you from the closest water supply? So I'm willing to look at the eyesore for the sake of the community, but how about doing something for us?
Thanks, Bob. Anyone else in favor of or in the middle of the road, I should say? Hearing none, then I'll go to those in opposition to the tank project. Would you like to speak on the application for the new tank or anything associated that you heard today in opposition to the tank project? State your name and address for the record.
My name is Ray Houghton. I live at 6 Overlook Drive. And my property directly backs up to the back property line, goes right to that water company property. If I can show you guys this, it'll show you exactly where I am. So that's my property. That's the existing tank down the bottom,
Gotcha.
and that's where they're putting the yellow circles where they're going to put the new tank. Got it?
All right.
So I'm looking at some of these pictures here, and I don't know if they're to scale or not. I assume they are because they're architectural, but I was told that the new tank's going to be 183 feet from my property line. They are going to clear to within 100 feet of the property line. I don't have much trees from their fence into my property. My house is about 75 feet from the property line. And the road's going to be 150 feet from my property line. Looking at these pictures, this tank doesn't look like it's, if you double it, 83 feet, you're pretty close to the property line. It doesn't look like it's going to be full 183 feet from the property line like I was told. My also concern is with, I do have city water, which doesn't affect this at all. But when I bought the house in 2005, I walked into the property and I couldn't see the existing water tank. I didn't notice it, I should say. It's far enough into the woods, I didn't notice it. I can see it now, I know it's there, so I know when I see that shading. When the leaves are off, it's there, right? It's right there. This new one, I don't think I'm gonna be able to not see it even when the leaves are on the trees. So when I bought my house and I saw the neighborhood and I love the surrounding, it's very private. I pay a certain price for the house. I think this is gonna affect my property value. I think it's gonna affect everybody around that whole side that's gonna see all this, their property values. It's gonna stick out like a sore thumb. And I just think that the size of it and how close it is, I don't understand why they had that tank off while they did that maintenance. They cleaned it, they scraped it, they painted it, they lined it. It was off for over a year. They're saying how quick they can take this tank down. Chop it up, take it down, and how fast the new one goes up. Why can't they take it offline, take that existing tank out, put the new tank right where that existing tank is, the same size, and just leave it the way it is? I'm just concerned at how close this is going to be to my house. My neighbors down the side of my house, that's all downhill. That's all going to be there. All their backyards, they're all looking at it too. You know, so I'm just concerned with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to the project?
Hi, I'm Mike Jordan, 46 Clear Lake Manor Road in Guilford. Our concern isn't so much about the tanks themselves. I'm actually pleased to see some of the erosion controls that they're improving. It's my understanding that there's an additional concern with the erosion. These tanks periodically have maintenance, which includes draining the tanks, which I have no idea is above or below the threshold of a 200-year rainstorm. It's my understanding that when they do flush these tanks periodically, that the amount of water that is shed actually goes down the driveway, onto the roads, sometimes flooding the storm drains, and eventually ends up in Clear Lake. Our concerns are pollution picked up along the roads, salt, oil going into the lake. There's also a concern of silt from the erosion going down the roads. I see that it's taken care of at the site itself, and some of it for the construction, but not necessarily during the maintenance. I'd like to know that those concerns are addressed for that maintenance, and that the material, the pollutants, don't end up in the lake. I took a ride up to the tanks recently and looked at the storm drains going, these are small lakeside roads. The drainage is not very modern. There's some new culverts, but a lot of it just goes off the side of the road. Is the drainage adequate to handle this amount of water that's shed? Maybe in the plans, I don't know, but I'm hoping that those are concerns that you were to bring up. I also know that they've said that the inland waterways have already passed on this. I'm hoping those concerns were brought up as well. And our major concern is how does it affect the lake during maintenance? I hope you guys give that some concern. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm not sure this works. Elise Lowe, 1 Olson Road, North Branford, and 1211 Westlake Avenue, Guilford. Town line goes through our property. I do have a concern about the maintenance of the tanks when that water is let out. It does go down the driveway. It does go down West Pond Road. It does go down any of the properties that don't have curbing. There is no curb on West Pond Road. So on its way down to perhaps the inlet that goes between West Pond Road and the lake, it flows over the edge of the property on 9 West Pond Road and has flooded what is our son's property at that address in the past. So as a word of warning and caution for future discharge from the tanks, there must be better control of a discharge than what has been done in the past to avoid flooding on personal property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Gottschalk. I'm at 16 Olson Road. We're backed up, our back patio area backs up to the wetlands area and to the driveway where all the trucks will be going up to deliver their loads. Our front facing, we're at 16 Olson Road, however, we are technically, our mailbox has been moved and with the approval of the local post office here, our post office's mailbox is between 25 and 45 West Pond Road, which is actually where the driveway is. So the bottom line is we're concerned about noise. We're concerned about a lot of different things besides the runoff, and other people mentioned some very good important points. We've already had water runoff from the tank and from the higher end moving south-southeast through our yard, down the hill, and into 9 and 15 homes, which is on Olson Road. So it flows down the hill. We overlook the lake, but our back area through a right-of-way with the Regional Water Authority is how we access our house. So what we're concerned about is runoff. We're concerned about the noise during the construction period. We're concerned about fracking and the impact of the water and the well. What they didn't emphasize to you was they're going to be building the tank and then imploding, and that's the word they used when they met with us graciously about 6 weeks ago. They're going to be imploding the existing tank. So we're concerned with our well that the vibrations, the noise, the fracking type movement in the soil is going to affect our well and our runoff. And the access and the water and the flow to our house. That's a big deal. And we've already spent several $1,000s in drilling our well even further down to get better water flow a few years ago. So we're concerned about that. We're also concerned about the impact, environmental impact, and wildlife. And when they're done with the project, the camouflaging of both tanks. You mentioned here it's a tan color or whatever. It needs to be camouflaged. It needs to be as best, there needs to be growth. There needs to be replanting around the tank if you're going to have it, or both tanks. And yeah, I just, as a good neighbor, I mean, the 4 of you, 5 of you, 6 of you, and if you live there, you would be feeling the same way that a lot of us are feeling right now. And we're also concerned about when they're done with the project. What about the resoiling, the replanting, the landscaping? This is very easy to promote like this, but we want to make sure it's finished. If there's any damage to our driveway, which we use to access, is going to be maintained. And we have 2 driveways. There's the main driveway going up to the water tank, and the one that access or intersects with our driveway to our property. So we're hoping that we'll have it all, buttoned up nicely when they're finished with this project, and that these concerns will be, looked into before the project begins. Again, the biggest emphasis I could say is our concern with the water flow of our well and some of the negativity that could be impacted because of the implosion of this very large water tank. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Bill Redmond, 9 Olson Road, North Branford. I'm concerned about runoff on the hillside. We've had some pretty serious rains, and the amount of water that will come down that hillside will open your eyes. And the town is aware that we've had issues there, and they've made some corrections, but I think there's more that needs to be done. I have yet to see any of these drawings or plans, so I'm not informed, and I can't hear back there. So, thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks, Bill.
Good evening. Kim Warren, 50 Clear Lake Manor Road. I think concerning all of the technical issues here, it's a pretty complex project involving removing a tank, how it's going to be removed, implosion, dynamite, the kind of runoffs that we've experienced, the fact that we're building 2 new tanks, and that that's all going to be done within 2 years, or is that 1 tank for the first 2 years? And then the second tank, another 2 years. I think the complexity of the project begs a third-party technical engineering review rather than homeowners, people who volunteer to work on commissions such as yourselves to make these judgments for such a complex engineering project. So I think that we would all be well served if we could have a third-party review what's been designed and submitted, especially when I hear things in a project this large, and we discussed a pit for a perk test. It was dug 10 feet deep, but we thought it was dangerous to really take that test at 10 feet. So we used similar soil on a shallower pit to think we could get the same results. Maybe we wouldn't. When the project is this complex and serious, I think that type of engineering should be thoroughly looked at by a third party. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to it that we haven't heard to date on the topics?
How's it going, guys? My name is Zachary Hutt. I live at 4 Overlook Drive in North Branford. My property abuts Ray's property. One of my main concerns with this is what it's going to do to my property value. The current tank there is not very visible to me. Can see it in the fall somewhat. Where they want to put the new tank, I'm probably going to be able to clearly see this from my yard. My other concern with this project, I raise chickens on my property. We recently, like 2021, they cleared a large parcel of land on West Pond. We saw an increase in predators on our property and an increase in lost livestock from it. I'm concerned about the fencing that they want to put up and how it's going to allow animals to migrate through the area if I'm going to see an increase in predators on my property. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Zach. Anyone else like to speak? Please.
My name is Joseph Riga, 8 Overlook Drive, so I abut
Mr. Houghton's property as well. So I have 5 major concerns, and that's one, the view of the tank, property values as well. Our concern, echoing what Ray said earlier, is the disruption of at least the clearing out of the tree line that's behind Ray's property. I'm right behind him, so we don't have many trees between our properties. So the view of that tank's going to be right there. So that is a major concern. Just as Zach said earlier, we do have a lot of predators up there and disrupting. That's not a very large parcel. I believe it's 6 to 8 acres. Is that right? So has the water company thought about maintaining the same site that they had there without disrupting or creating an additional road, which is going to disrupt, at least clearing of trees and so forth? Because that existing tank has gone down, as they had mentioned back in 2016, and they were able to keep it down for a year. If this project's 12 to 18 months, why couldn't they just keep it in the same spot? I think that's pretty much it on my part. Thank you very much for listening.
Can I have your name again?
Joseph Riga, R-I-G-A.
Thank you.
8 Overlook.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to the project? Anyone else?
Hi. I'm Barbara Kenny. I'm president of the Clear Lake Association. One of our major concerns is, since '72, as they emptied the tanks out and the water came down the hill, that was back when the town used sand on the roads. All the sand came down the hill, through the storm drains, and into the lake. So probably 25, 30 feet out into the lake at that point is all the sand from the roads in North Branford. So the water there is probably 8 inches deep now. The water company was maintaining and going in and digging it back out when they released the tanks, but probably 15 years ago they stopped doing it. So now we're going to have that same volume of water coming down with this much water, with this much available water space. It's just filled up right to the road. And the 2 inlets that go in from West Pond Road are all filled in. So, which means it's going to back up onto West Pond Road. So it's just a concern that we have. How are they going to maintain Clear Lake? I mean, we're the ones that end up with all the water that comes off that hill. And we don't have public water. So it's just a concern that we'd like addressed. And if any of the committee would like to come down and do a tour, I can show you exactly the situation that we have there. I'm more than willing to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition to the project? Anyone else? Hearing none, I give an opportunity to water company to rebut some of the comments or answer.
Again, for the record, Andrew White, professional engineer at Ty and Bond. One of the more frequent comments, I'll start with the frequent comments and go to the less frequent that were mentioned. Sounds like the biggest concern is the drainage from the tank. I did not specifically go over this before, but this tank is hardlined into the drainage system. We have a dechlorination chamber. So what will happen is when this tank does need to be drained, there will be a regulated flow. So as we were talking before with cubic feet per second with storms, same thing happens with the tank. They have a flow regulator that will be opened. It'll be released at a slow volume. The dechlorination chamber takes out any chlorine from the water to make it dechlorinated. It will travel down through the pipe system. There is a hydrodynamic separator before the infiltration system, and then this tank that's sized for the 100-year flow, which will be in excess of the flow rates that are coming out of this tank, will infiltrate that water into the ground and then it'll continue to discharge and be hard piped into the drainage system in the road. So as opposed to what may have happened in the past with the existing tank, because the existing tank is not tied into a storm system. This design does take into account best practices for newer construction of water tanks. So that will not be an issue as it has been in the past with this tank. There was talk about imploding of the existing tank. Again, when this tank goes online, the existing tank will be able to be taken off of service to be inspected to determine its repair needs or rebuild or replacement needs. In the event it is demolished, it would be a hydraulic scissor. It's a steel tank. It's a machine that has enormous scissors. There's no explosion of a tank. It would be essentially cut apart into pieces carefully and then removed from the site itself. Noise, this would be typical construction hours. So, 7 o'clock to 3 in the afternoon type project. It is in a local neighborhood, so we do understand and are sensitive to, when construction would occur. Certainly, that would be a very conscious and coordinated effort for when this project is occurring. I think there was mention of fracking. There's no fracking. This does not have anything to do with wells or extraction of groundwater sources. This is storage tanks, so this is the water for these tanks are brought in from the water mains. It's pumped up to this elevation to give pressure to the system. There was mention of the infiltration testing. Again, that was, and a third-party review. That comment actually came from the town's third-party reviewer. I believe NAFIS and Young Engineers that provided those comments. So there has been a review from an independent engineering company. That response was to their comments. And again, the idea with that is we had dug deep tests down in excess of 10 feet to establish the soil profile. When you do this, I mean, we had an excavator out there. It's reaching down into the hole. They're typically opening up only 3 to 4 feet wide in excess of 8 or so feet so we can see the profile and read it safely from above. To enter that trench on this hillside, we would have had shoring boxes. It would have been a massive operation, and we would have had to clear trees in order to do that. So after we had read the soil profile and understood that the soils were homogeneous down that entire profile depth, we then took the infiltration test in a higher strata of the same soil. So we're measuring how fast the water gets through the sand, or the sandy loam in this case, and into the eventual groundwater table. So for this, using engineering judgment, we determined that the best course of action was to test at a higher elevation versus trying to open this up and do more environmental harm for the testing. Because ultimately, we weren't sure if that's exactly where the system was going. We do these tests to determine if the area that we were determining for the system is applicable. So there was a chance that you do that test, infiltration test fails, and we move on. So trying to do massive excavations was not appropriate. There was discussion of the fencing and wildlife. The fence itself is as close to this access drive as practical, a few feet off of it. So we're not cutting off entire areas. It's really to encompass the site itself. There is still room east of the site for migration of wildlife, as well as on the west along the property line. Again, this is, as you can see in the aerial, surrounded by residential properties. So the entire perimeter of the site, wildlife can migrate around. So really the fence itself is encircling just the infrastructure. think that covers all the questions, unless I missed any, or if there's any additional ones. Property values I can't speak to. I'm not a real estate expert.
Can you speak to the draining of the old tank?
So,
I'll speak to that. So there's two things. With the draining of the existing tank, as Mr. White said, it's not directly connected. In terms of what was done previously versus what is being done most recently, is that we allow that tank to drain itself into the system. All right? And it is no different than us operating standard practices on any other tank. When we're draining the tank, we're allowing it to drain into the system to a certain elevation. And then based on that elevation, the amount of water that is left in it, it is not a controlled released, because we need to make sure that we're taking out the chlorine before it gets released. Mm-hmm. All right, and so you can't dechlorinate at certain flow rate. It needs to be within a manageable flow rate.
And where is that going to occur?
Excuse me?
Within the tank?
The dechlorination? Mm-hmm. No, there's on this new system, as Mr. White mentioned, there's a dechlorination chamber.
Yes.
All right, and so no, we would put the dechlor taps inside that, and then we operate valves.
Because the two tanks aren't tied together.
What?
Is the draining of the old tank going to tie into the new dechlorination? It didn't seem like that was happening.
The two new tanks will be tied in.
Okay, so we're talking about the existing one.
The existing tank presently, as is, in previous years, I can't speak to that, have been with the Regional Water Authority just over 20 years, about 22, 23 years. In the most recent times, well, in 2016 when this was drained, it was more of a control drain. So I could speak to that in 2016.
And how did that occur, so we understand?
How that occurred was, as I said earlier, we lowered the tank into the system, and then at a certain elevation in the tank, without spitting out numbers, I don't know which elevation, then that is when we do a control release, where we're operating a drain valve, whether it's 1 turn, 2 turns, and then that gets in contact with the dechlorination tap. And part of deep requirement is that we need to measure 10%, the first 10%, the last 10%, to make sure that the dechlor tab is working. So once you set that flow, that's the flow, and so that's a more manageable flow.
And I'm sorry.
The question you're asking, I know.
Right, where does the water, I understand the dechlorination, where is the water going at that certain elevation when you drain the bottom of the tank?
The new tank?
The old tank.
The whole tank, that presently is run off down on the side of the road.
Down the side of the road.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the whole point of the conversation, right? So the whole idea is to try to get it back in the system so it goes into that filtration system. Would be kind of advantageous to get the water from the old tank into the filtration system.
That is if the whole tank remains in service, which it won't. I've heard many, they were saying that we could take this offline for a year. It has been done in times past and put it back in that same location. Well, part of the improvements is to make sure that now we're controlling what leaves the site.
Okay.
All right. And with that said, in terms of the lessons learned from 2016, is that system was a challenge for us to manage. We had to turn a pump station. If we have a failure in a pump station, then we have serious issue. And so to get this new tank online so that we could do what needs to be done with the existing tank is a public health concern and safety.
Okay.
And is there a DEP permitting process when you flush the existing tank?
Yes.
And does that entail the storm drains in the town as well, or just the dechlorination part?
I believe presently now it's just the dechlorination portion of it. Is that a good thing to
I
get to
heard
leave?
from Mr. Waite, you're going to drain it, inspect it, and then determine if it will stay, need repair, or demolish it. But then you seem to just suggest that you're going to drain it and get rid of it.
That is the intent. It's only a matter.
That's not what we heard from Mr. Waite.
It's
because I was the reason. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, finish your question.
No, because that's the. I was going to say if it's if the intent is just to drain it and get rid of it, then this pumping down and then discharging the remaining after dechlorination down the street would only happen one more time. If you're going to keep it, if you inspect and you can repair it, then we're gonna have this ongoing situation, right?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
because with this new
I
system
think that's
that,
what the crux of this whole, yeah.
and that's okay.
Insert.
With
Okay.
this new system that is being installed, once this new tank is there to drain the existing tank, we could also jump into that.
You can.
Yes.
You could, because I think that's what Bob was asking, can that be tied in?
Yeah, not
If that's
not
safe.
physically, but temporary overland.
Got it. All right, that's what
There
your
you go.
question was. Okay,
Question answered.
got it.
Right, so not straight
No, it's not-
tie-in,
Right.
Yeah.
but temporary overland.
Overland, because I'm seeing all the catch basins that tie into it, so I'm assuming you're gonna
Correct.
use the catch basins and the drain into the system.
Correct.
So there's no more concern of water going down the road, flushing down into Clear Lake. Okay, awesome. So the next comment is 900 cubic yards. That's a lot of trucks.
Yes.
And that's gonna be on West Pond Road?
So, hold on,
Go
is
ahead.
there still, I think there may be still a question, just to clarify. So, if I think the question is, and we're unclear, if you do, if there's two new tanks, they'll both be tied in. If you're gonna keep, if you drain the other one and decide to keep it, you can pump over.
Yes.
So it will be through the existing system, but
Through
you
the-
have to pump it into the new. tank.
Not pump, just connect hose.
Disconnect.
over- Yes.
I think
Into the new
that's-
system of it.
Thank you, sorry, Bob.
No.
I heard it. They were unclear in the back.
Yeah, no problem. So, 900 cubic yards is gonna be hauled off-site, right? And that's gonna be through West Pond Road, I'm assuming?
Presently, we don't know exactly where it's going, but yes, that would be the intent. Some West Pond Road to some off-site facilities.
So in order to accommodate 900 yards on that piece of property, you'd have to clear more trees. And that's what we don't want, right? I'm assuming.
Yes, in order to accommodate another 900 yards, we would be looking at areas south of this tank and closer to other property lines. So this location, the tanks are a little bit more west of the property than center of the property. This location where the fill is occurring is more center of the property. So this is the least impactful area.
Gotcha.
I had a question, let me remember what it was. Well, first of all, while I'm gathering that question, there was a question about, there's 183 from the property, it was the first gentleman, the first question. 183 from the property line was originally what was told, but his concern was it looks like it's much less than that. Can you speak to that?
It's hard to see all the way up here. There is, sorry, let me talk into the mic more. There is a dimension from the limited tree clearing to the back of the gentleman's house at 198 feet. The clearing to the property line is 107 feet. Do not have an exact distance from edge of tree or edge of their tree line to the tree clearing, but 107 feet property line to clearing, house to clearing is 198.
I know it was this new drainage system. You earlier mentioned that, I think it's 2024, it was a state, the new state guidance?
Yes, that went.
Is that part of it?
Yes,
Okay, that's.
that went into effect in March.
Got it, thank you. And the last question I think I heard was, are there any other options for colors of paints that would make it less visible? Only because that was asked. I'm just asking, because that wasn't a question.
If it wasn't shown clearly the first time, I mean, our most recent tank we did.
No, that wasn't my question, because the question was color. Anything that's less visible than that color.
Less visible, are we talking about camouflage in it or something like that?
That was mentioned, but
well,
I'm just leaving it vague at this point for you.
So there is some rationale in terms of the lightness of the color, because then you don't want to trap too much heat and everything. And so, you know, just the temperature in the water tank is also of concern. That degrades the quality of the water.
Yep.
And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is providing high quality water.
Understood. I assume that was the case. Thank you.
So the last question I have is fire hydrant.
Yeah.
Any opportunity to put one at the bottom of the driveway?
So putting a fire hydrant on the tank is the only time fire hydrant is placed on the tank is for the maintenance or the draining and whatever else of that tank. And we can't put a fire hydrant on the tank that is going to be tied in directly for fire service. One of the issues we have looked at is where the water main runs. The water main does not run down on West Pond Street. It's on the opposite side of the property. So there's a right-of-way easement going on that side. There is tons of rock and it's very rocky on that side. So that would be extremely challenging. Pretty much with fire hydrants, one of the things is a direct connect to a fire hydrant is a public risk for everybody involved. Yes. Because there's no way of controlling or making sure that that water is not going to get contaminated.
See, I don't understand because we've had a discussion with the chief of the fire department, and during the discussion, it was like, if my neighbor's house was on fire, and she and her child are stuck on the second floor, they won't put a pump in my pool next door to pump the water to put the fire out because they're not sure of what chemicals, chlorine, that might be in the pool that I'm putting my children in.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me the complete opposite of that, because the water, let's say one of the houses next door is on fire, you got a fire hydrant, you're gonna not allow the fire truck to access water that's not chlorined because the fire department doesn't want to put chlorine water in their trucks.
The water,
I'm not understanding.
The water that's in the tank is chlorinated water. That's your distribution water. Yeah. Typically, we have hydrant that we allow fire service to use on our distribution main. Yeah. That we could isolate section of that main and the tank controls that pressure. Mm-hmm. If you're allowed to tie to a water tank, there's cross-contamination, there is a mirage of things that could happen, potentially happen, that not just put that one house in danger, but an entire community at risk. And so that is why there is no direct tie-in to the tank itself, but there are tie-ins that is controlled through the distribution system.
It has nothing to do with chlorine. It's the direct tie-in to a hydrant. It has to go through a distribution line where they can section it off. It's not the chlorine that's driving that.
No.
My other question would be, what's that piece of property zoned at?
Yeah. R40.
It's an R40?
That's what it says on the...
Yes, sir.
Yep. I mean, the entire piece of property...
I was wondering that too.
In terms of the zoning aspect of it, has a tank, and the second tank was shown at the time in 1972. So,
is it a pre-existing non-conforming?
I believe it's permitted as of use for the...
Well, it's a utility.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Is it a utility or is it a tank farm?
It's a utility.
I believe from the zoning regulations, it's public utility company, water supply, reservoirs, wells, pump stations, storage facilities, and treatment facilities.
Storage.
And what year was the first tank put in? 72.
1972.
Good.
I think I'm good, thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Dave, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, there were other comments about landscaping and whether there's more larger trees that can be installed so that in 10 years they're, you know, or trees that are large now.
So we're not going to do any landscaping at all? Just erosion control, matting, and grass?
What can be done
Thank you.
address?
So the plans
some of the concerns?
currently have a wild New England wetland plants. It's a company that has restoration and seed mixes, so it's a mixture of grasses, shrubs, trees that are part of that mix. There is currently nothing in the plan for larger vegetation. I don't believe that would necessarily be an issue if that was brought up as a condition of approval, that landscaping is to be provided.
Absolutely.
Seems very reasonable.
Absolutely. Do we want to see a plan of it before or a condition of approval? Yes, sir.
I think they're using 6,000 of it to create that retention area.
Mr. White, that's...
7,000's coming out, 6,000's gonna stay, 990 has to go.
990 comes out, so it's 7,000 that gets excavated, and then the 6,010 that remains on site and gets reshaped. A lot of that is shaped in this access drive. The grade is brought up. This also, between raising this and having the swale in, is controlling stormwater. So previously, this hillside spans out south, east, and west from this top. By readjusting these grades, having berms on this side, a berm with the swale on top, we're controlling all the stormwater and directing it to our system, as well as providing stable grades for the driveway and uniform grades, and keeping fill on site versus off site.
Mr. The way to hide that tank more, making a larger berm.
Currently, there's no berm in the back. The tank is lower than the surrounding grades. It is, top of this hill is around 285. The tank itself, 269. So this tank is recessed 20 feet lower than this hillside. So this area is excavated down. It's also I think it's 47 feet, so 27 is proud of that hillside. And the slope continues to come up.
So some kind of
Screening.
planting would make sense to me if they're open to that.
Yeah, I agree.
Your idea.
Up close to the tank or
Well, understanding the topography now, that it should be around the top of the slope on that, at one side, and then I don't know where else possible to shield it from, or camouflage from the neighbors that are visible to that, as best you can.
Yeah, I think the area that would be most beneficial would be in this northern area where that the cut slope is, because you do have that elevation gradient that you're referring to.
Right, I think that was Ray's property, I
Most
think.
of the houses are over there.
That was the,
There's a cul-de-sac and neighborhood to the north, one residential property to the west, and then there are about 5 to the east. So proximity to property line is closest on the north.
Okay, good.
yeah. I think that'll work. Add some screening in that upper part of the property to shield it from the neighbor.
So something like white pines, like big white pines as opposed to oak trees and maple trees.
Conifers.
Yeah, but I mean, the white pines, I mean, you just let them go up there. Like the ones out here in the parking lot?
Right, right.
Would it be a condition of?
If I may, Coach, one of the issues or maintenance issues we will have is, depending on how far away trees are planted from the tank, it becomes a safety concern to the tanks. And so we tend to limit the types and how tall they get over a period of time. Because it's not just us, but it's also required by DPH.
And what's that distance approximately?
It's tough to tell, just, the drawings will get submitted, right? And that's part of it. In terms of the trees, we look at the screening types, how tall they grow, etc., and make sure that it's outside. We'll look at, oftentimes they'll tell you how tall it will grow over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. But that has to be maintained.
So the north you said is 26 visible? Because it's setback?
Approximately 26 visible.
26 visible. And I came maybe one of those giant arborvitaes, I forget the.
So the topography is how high up from the ground up?
Approximately 47 feet.
All right, and then the slope goes up, so the house will be looking down at the time?
Correct. So you have a grade change of 20 feet.
For eye level.
I'm looking at the old tank now. I can see the old tank. I'm seeing more than 27 feet of that old tank.
So this is from the north side that the 27 feet is visible.
I invited Cody up, he didn't come.
No, I'm sure you want to be good neighbors to these people that are not happy with what you're doing. So, I'm hearing that you have restrictions that you can't do any buffering, and they want buffering, and,
No, never said no buffering.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Never said no buffering.
Just
I said there was restriction as to how tall or how much could be done, yes.
So.
It's not set by us, the RWA.
Would it cover it, would it hide the tank, the height that you're allowed to go?
You're asking a question that should I address the?
No, Paul just asked you a question.
So,
Is there a
let
restriction?
me, yeah. I was gonna say, maybe condition is, I was gonna ask Dave this.
Absolutely.
We'll make a condition of approval that there be some kind of planting scheme that's given to you. Do we wanna see it, or is it the administrator that can do it? Town planner can do an administrative review? We have to decide that. I mean, is that
Well, I guess
reasonable or fair?
I have a question that, what other permitting processes do you have to go through?
In terms of the tank itself?
Yeah, in terms of getting it built. You need DEEP, you need federal approval.
Well, yes, we would go through the DPH because I believe there are some federal funding associated with this project. And of course, that would require whether it be NDDB, the different permits that is required, yes.
So it may very well be that we approve this plan like we do with Department of Transportation, that, they come back 3 months later and say, the plan that you approved, we can't do because other regulatory agencies are making other requirements, right? I mean, we have that with...
Anything is possible, but very highly unlikely. Because this
Well, then, so you could determine where the trees could go that
Yes.
would be approved by...
Yes.
So let's see a rendition of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They should come up with a planting scheme as appropriate trees that meet your requirements and setbacks, knowing what the residents' concerns are. And do we want, the question was,
Yeah, you want to see it.
administratively do,
You
we'll
want
come
to
back
see it
to us.
again.
Yeah, I think.
I would even keep the public hearing open
Yeah,
and get it
let's do
on the
that.
record.
So you can't drop that tank lower?
No, we cannot
No.
drop the tank lower because of the elevation. So if we were to drop the base lower, the height stays the same. Because again, the two heights are interlocked at the same elevation. So if this tank was to move, say we put it all the way down.
It's lower in the ground when you put it in bigger.
Well, but you still need the same height. So the problem is that the water elevation needs to be at a height. So if we were to put it lower in the ground, you could make the tank smaller, but you couldn't make it any less tall. So it's locked due to the hydraulic gradient of the system.
Okay, with that being said, I think we're going to continue the public hearing and give you a chance to come up with a screening plan that we could review at the next meeting. So everyone's happy. We don't need a motion for that, do we? No. So we're going to continue this public hearing until the next meeting, October 15th, I think it is, 14, 17th. 17th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So that being said, we're going to move on to the...
We never did, I don't know if we can even do minutes. Can we do minutes?
No.
Okay, we couldn't do that.
We're going to move on to the next item, number 5, old business. There isn't any. New business, not so much. Number 6.
We're going to have, these two things will still be floating around.
Okay.
I've got another application for a garage with an apartment over it.
Okay.
And we're going to start.
Excuse me. We're still conducting business. Thank you.
Cannabis, not permitting cannabis, putting it under the list of prohibited items.
Okay.
Public hearing for that, lighting regulations, and poultry
Yeah.
regulations.
Next meeting? Or?
Yeah. If we don't get to them, it's fine. We just open the public hearing and we can keep it open for as long as we want.
Okay.
When it's a town submitted zone regulation change, all those time limits get thrown out.
We'll get it to when we get to it. So lighting and chickens on us, public hearing.
Cannabis.
And cannabis, free. Because we're coming up with a decision on moratorium ends 21st. Okay. Anything else, Dave? So last one we got is number 9, adjournment.
My part. First, I'd like to wish a Happy New Year to all my Jewish friends. Happy Rosh Hashanah. And that being said, I move we adjourn.
Oh, second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned at 8:57.
Gentlemen, thank you.